there's this concept right around like this loyalty. Okay. This loyalty to the farm. And there's something deeper here that never gets talked about and never gets discussed because it's uncomfortable. And the reason it's uncomfortable is because we are dealing with family. A lot of you, most of you, majority of you, if you're anything like me, you come through this with your family, right? Now, when we talk about legacy, what do you think about when you talk about legacy? Like when you think of legacy, you think of something that you are going to, and at least in my terms, you might have something completely different, and that's fine. But you have this idea around something you are going to leave behind. Okay. Many of you and most farmers are going to leave behind land, real estate, equipment. That's their legacy. That like it's a piece of ground that's their legacy. Now, what are we seeing now, and what are some of the problems with this? Is that many of us and many that are growing the family farm and the operations, we have this internal mindset that we are going to one day pass this down to the next generation, right? This keeps us in the go. It keeps us really motivated to actually make these it fuels you, right? You get up in the morning and you just know that you're going to leave this thing behind one day. What's the problem with this though? Is that you are going to spend majority of your time working inside of the operation to grow this operation to only one day, and many of you to have it either given to your kids or passed down to the next generation, and they ultimately just sell it. But how many decisions and how much energy are you actually spent inside of this farming operation? And how much time are you actually away from home or actually on the principles you want to put into not only your kids, your family, but those around you? Like you are spending 12 to 18 hours a day building and grinding this and hustling in this operation. And many of it for what? Right. And if there's an operation that isn't profitable or it's not simply working, but you're spending the time, you're grinding, you're making those sacrifices, who are the people on the back end that get dismissed? It's going to be your family. It's going to be your family. And what the day is going to come when you realize that you spent all that time working on the farm to simply not bleed and give all your time and energy into your family. And then we have this expectation, right? That we want them to come back and take the operation over. And guys, like this isn't a soft subject by all means, and it's going to stir up a bunch of feelings and emotions in you. And that's great. That means this is a problem. Like this is a problem. And somebody's finally talking about it and actually getting this across to you and making you think differently about what it is exactly you are doing. Because again, the sacrifices you are making inside of your operation, it's mostly your family who's on the back end of those sacrifices, right? That new piece of ground that you're going to go out and buy. Who are you doing it for? And most of you, it goes back to the next generation. Do your kids even want to farm? Are they going to farm? Are you actually bleeding in the principles and the teachings of what it actually takes to run an operation instead of just going out and buying that new piece of ground? And then you're going to get tight on cash flow. So you have lack of money coming in. You're getting more stress. You're drinking more. You're smoking more, whatever it is, just to take the pressure off of what's actually going on inside of your family, which is where you should be. It's who you should be bleeding into as well. Many of you are building things that are going to get passed down to only the next generation where you've never bled into your kids, your family, your time at home. And they aren't going to care. You've been either so absent or haven't bled into the right principles of what it actually takes to, one, build a business, two, sustain it, but then three, like have the actual principles around this idea and this foundation of life in general. Like, what does it even mean? What's the purpose, right? What's the purpose for it? And so the kids might not want anything to do with it one day. They get this passed down, or two, they've been working with you side by side, never given any responsibilities, never given this lifestyle of going out and doing their own thing and actually building their own thing, not only to get something handed down to them, and then they have no inherent idea of what it even takes to make this thing work. And they really don't truly care. Like they've been given something. It was easy for them. It was the easiest path for them to walk. You are setting them up for failure. You're setting them up for failure. And again, this is not an easy conversation. And we're going to keep having these conversations. And that's really what legacy farmer, what we're bleeding into is not just the reason behind why you're doing these things. And at the end of the day, again, if you created this entire empire, okay, that's great. That's awesome. But if you pulled in your family into it and have this high expectation that they are just going to take it over and that they are going to run it for you and it's going to be great, they're going to think about you, that is a crock of shit right there. Like, you need to stop and reconsider what it is you are doing here. This isn't easy. You guys haven't been taught this. This is a completely like different mindset shift that needs to have happen and is going to happen, and things you need to consider, because again, you are sacrificing your time away from your kids and you are not leaving your legacy inside of them. You have your legacy left in other material things that ultimately one day the auction block comes, they give a shit. You're 50, 100 years, whatever, how many years you work to build into that, it's gone. Like it's gone with one bid. As soon as that hammer falls, it's gone. Your legacy, that's you. That's what you left behind. Like, that's it. All the equipment's gone. Many of you that bleed into that, I get it. I get it. But there's this different mindset shift that has to happen. There's this different perspective that has to happen. And inside a legacy farmer, it is one, building you up to see this and to help you lead you through this process. Understand the business side of it so you can actually leave and actually have something that is going to be left behind. But again, having it to where it comes back to where you understand what it is you are leaving behind and who you are leaving it behind for, making sure that you are bleeding this into your kids. Your legacy is not your land. I do not want to be remembered for the assets that I have, the cash, any of that. That's not how I want to be remembered. I want to be remembered by the people I influenced, the amount of people I influenced, and the standards I had for myself so I could lead other people to make better decisions for themselves. That's the legacy I want to leave behind. So for farmers, right, and you that have operations, yes, the legacy, the land, it's going to get left behind. But if you don't have the principles, and the message here is, if you don't have the principles and bled into your kids, that is the legacy that you leave behind. And one day it is going to be gone. Like, either the next generation will lose it. They're going to not have any appreciation for it. You haven't spent the time because you were busy hustling. I get it. But the reality is too, is that you don't have time on your side, and you don't have you just don't have this grace period, right? It is hard work. It takes time. But again, bleeding into your kids and leaving those qualities into your kids is what is going to make your legacy that you are working so hard for right now. All this sweat, think of the shit that you've been through, the prices going up and down, market prices going up and down. Think of all of those things that you have had to overcome, and difficult times, those years you lost money. Yeah, I lost 40K in 2017, right? You go through those periods, you finally get back up to where you're making money or having a profit. That's awesome, right? But again, the legacy you want to leave behind, you want to leave it behind in those people that you have behind you, team members, family, kids, because that is how your legacy continues on. It's those key principles right there. It is those key principles right there. And they will never remember for the land, the acres you left behind. It is the teachings, the principles, the characters that you left into them. That's what they're going to remember. And that is your legacy, my friend. And if you can't see that, you won't, there's no point in watching this. There is no point in watching this, because there is a bigger picture that we're trying to paint here. And yes, we're trying to wake you up to it and kind of see this different perspective. So hopefully this resonated with some of you. Again, this is what I feel is different, and what we're doing inside Legacy Farmer is getting you these core principles so you can, one, learn and have these teachings that you can give down to your kids and serving them. That's going to serve them for the next generation. They're going to remember all these key principles, the business tools that you gave them. Man, that is where your legacy gets left. Like, that's how I want to be remembered. So guys, I hope that resonated with you, and kind of wake you up, make you thinking differently. That's the whole point here. This isn't to sugarcoat everything. I'm not here to give you some big pep or some talk like that. We're talking about the real things inside Legacy Farmer, and actually getting pretty strategic on how we're doing that, and basing it off of the decisions that you're making. So my friend, hopefully this was valuable for you. And we will check in with you guys on another video.